trigger was when he if something happened that was wrong at like the very beginning or like 30 seconds to the show. I think this might have been a week when you were out.
He's done that before.
He ran, fixed it, comes back, his ear thing gets stuck on my camera and just makes it cockeyed. And so, and we didn't have time to fix it. So for the whole show, I was just like, hello.
It's true.
Look at that. We're on.
There it is. Oh.
Hot dog.
I know. And the countdown doesn't help, right? Because it makes you feel like... Oh, no, 12 minutes.
Oh, look at that.
Well, what are we going to do with ourselves?
I don't like that I'm on the big one.
Well, that's the preview monitor.
I still don't like it.
But it doesn't look like that. It looks like the one in the bottom. Online, see? You're not the big one on here.
Bless you. But I still don't like it.
Okay.
I feel like I'm not being heard.
I'm sorry.
Bless you. I just want to say
Gracias.
Kathleen, however, is being her.
You will hear me. I might not say anything important, but...
That's the one you want. Sorry. Oh, no. Did the Tidler just decided to... Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Okay. It's all right.
All will be well.
Stop. Hold on.
Oh, I thought you were talking to Kathleen at first.
No, not
I
you.
was like...
No, I'm just trying to not freak out here.
No, you don't tell me.
There we go.
You don't tell me what to do.
Make sure that works there, Ed. Let's let me just... Okay. All right. Good. All right.
The ball pit has decreed.
There it is. You got it. Now, we've never met before, have we?
Step away from the computer.
I know. Yeah. Oh, it's kind of like sending a child off to college, because let me tell you, my every waking moment has been driving to this studio and trying to get to this moment, this day, this hour.
I have popcorn in my teeth.
And
Kathleen's commentary.
These are the days of our lives, people.
That's right.
Father Chris works tirelessly to, get us up and going.
That's right.
I have problems with my snackage. I mean,
Paulette is asking how my parishioner is. I believe she's well. She was she fainted.
Oh.
And so there.
Today?
Yeah, at Mass.
Oh, jeez.
On the live stream. So.
Oh no.
So yeah, so a lot of folks are asking about her. She's doing well. I haven't heard anything this evening, but I know that she was laughing along with the EMTs as they were.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah.
I anointed her though, so did the anointing of the sick.
My parents went to go see my little baby. Look how cute she is. I'm playing on the floor. There's another little nugget, or a little. I can't say it on the air.
Yeah, don't say that. I saw it. I saw it.
He's been saying that forever. But no, my dad is slap happy.
Sure. That's
always.
I got.
Yeah. This is all he wants in life.
I got
to
a
play
very
on the floor
similar
with his
picture.
grandkids.
I asked my parents if they made it yesterday because they went to Denver.
Oh yeah.
And I got this picture.
Yeah. See, that's all they want in life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Dad sent me another picture. He emailed it to me, which is just so cute. He emailed me 2 pictures. And this is the other one. He's holding there, and I'm like, this is literally like his happy place.
Yeah.
Is that their church?
It must be. Their other one was this really beautiful church in Tacoma, but it's Our Lady of the Rosary. But they closed it and were tearing it down.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Well.
But they don't live in that particular area anymore, so it must be their new church. But anyway, yeah, it's a really beautiful church.
All right. Good.
Oh my gosh. As my unofficial pick of the week, the fact that Dr. Neil's blog is being populated again.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
It's good.
So good.
He writes very well.
He does.
All right. Hi, everybody. For those of you joining us, we're testing some new equipment.
Yes,
we're using some new equipment. So this broadcast will kind of be like a test. So if you're eagle-eyed, which I'll probably mention this on the show, then...
These look good.
we freshened the look a little bit.
Sorry, I'm like a little kid. I'm like, oh, look at all the new stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That wasn't like that last week, was it?
Nope.
Okay.
All right. I was going to try to share.
There's no sharing. It's Corona.
Gosh. Why, Kathleen?
We don't share here.
All right. Okay, go. Good. Countdown's making me nervous. Not
Aren't
used
you the
to
one
that.
who put it there?
I did. I might have it just tell the time in the future.
It's coming for you.
Like we're about to launch some NASA rockets or something.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the middle of war games. Like, turn your key, sir.
Yeah, I hope this goes better than the first SpaceX trials. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, me too. Yep. Oh, it's 4:34. Oh, yep, good. All right. Oh.
Oh, man.
So as far as the next several shows go, the Quas Primus one, we're just quashing?
I think we'll quash that and save it for next year.
Okay.
And we'll move directly into Advent.
Okay. Because, when I was looking at it this week, I started to, redate the episodes, and then I was like, shouldn't do that, because don't know which one we're giving up.
Mm-hmm. Just realized I didn't write the T's.
It wouldn't be the Catholic Underground if you weren't writing the T's right before the show.
It's true enough.
Yeah.
Just like me and Kathleen scrambling for
A pick of
the week. Although we were prepared this
You
time.
you were ready. You were ready to go.
You're welcome.
The heads up really did help. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I have one
will
in my
try.
back pocket because I never know when they're coming.
Surprise!
Surprise.
All right, good. And with 5 Earth minutes to spare.
Booyah.
Okay. My goodness. And eventually, I suppose, Albert, we can serve the audio from there. Although, I don't know. I mean, I guess a hybrid approach is probably better.
It'll probably put a little bit of delay in, and then it will sound creepy to y'all, probably.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because even our little TriCaster puts in that little bit of delay, and it's like,
so you feel like you're...
yeah.
Uh-huh. All right. Yeah, because I'd eventually like to get to a place where if we're doing packages and even our different commercials, doing some different commercials.
Yeah, you would hear it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll get there. There may be a way to make a submix out of it. And
there are. They're like
an NDI submix, yeah, and pull it in somehow into here.
There are NDI audio outs.
Oh. Cool.
Yeah, just put your thinking cap on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That thinking cap.
Love it. I found one of my audio dongles today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't use numbers, nor do I use fancy words. It's like an audio jack with a thick plug-in, and it has just a little as an adapter. You know what I mean? Does it help you out there? It's one of these.
Okay, right. Quarter inch. or half inch.
I lost it.
Quarter to eighth.
Yeah.
Quarter to eighth. There it is. Quarter inch is to the eighth.
And
Cool.
yes, I lost it. I've needed it for a retreat because, of course, I show up and they.
Yeah.
It.
Okay. All right. So we'll pray in a minute.
Okay.
Now we have time. Okay. Yeah, all's looking well. The SDI feeds are quite handily and happily into the new computer. And there is a little itsy bitsy bit of delay.
No.
But hopefully. Oh, we're at 0, aren't we?
Yeah, he said he hit reset by accident. You got to figure out a way to trigger that auto trigger. At
there is a way to do it. I just haven't learned it yet. All right, well, let's pray. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty God, we give you thanks for the gift of this apostolate and for the way in which it participates in the mission of your Son, Jesus. We ask, O Lord, as we claim him as King once again of our hearts, that his kingdom would be proclaimed in our work. We ask that you would send your Holy Spirit to be with us and to be with all of those especially who are in any way experiencing the sufferings of the cross. We ask that you would be extra near to them this evening. We ask, O Lord, also that you would protect our equipment from any deadly attack of the enemy, give success to the work of our hands, and help us to praise you in all things. We make this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ, your Son. Amen. And with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. All right, so we're going to go to the test pattern in just a moment, and the broadcast will start at the top of the hour, and we'll be off and running. So that's the way it goes.
Yahoo!
Yeah. I got nothing else to say.
You want to say anything else?
I don't think so. Yeah.
How come when there's 3 shots, I'm always slightly to one side or the other?
I don't know, Kathleen.
But I don't want to adjust myself because look, I'm in the center of mine.
We'll go to network. We'll see you at the top of the hour.
Including threats of physical abuse. Women have been lied to by the abortion industry, and they deserve better than abortion. You may be the voice that can empower a woman with the confidence to resist the pressure and choose life for them and their baby. If you know a pregnant woman in need of help, visit us at prolifelouisiana.org.
The way,
our catechism,
the truth,
Holy Scripture,
the life,
Catholic tradition.
now more than ever.
WPYR 1380 AM Baton Rouge and WPYR LP 105.9 FM Baton Rouge.
Today on the show, not the kind of doctors you're thinking of when learned Catholic women become saints. What would a doctor of the church look like today? And our picks of the week. All this and so much more. The Catholic Underground starts right now. You have indeed hit the play button on the Catholic Underground. We are a podcast cutting through the noise and bringing you the topics that matter. It's episode number 434. For those of you who are playing the home game, since 2006, by the way.
We're old.
Yeah, we are incredibly old. I'm Father Chris Decker, a priest of the Diocese of Baton Rouge, and joining me, we got Kathleen Lee. Hey, Kathleen.
I am here.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
That's right.
We love
Olivia Galino is also here.
It's true.
Yeah. And then up on the Jeff Star one, we have Albert, who's making sure that things are, kind of staying up in the air. Albert, glad that you're here. Ed Ball is in the ball pit somehow with the new graphic system.
Woo!
Just need to remind him to turn the fish on. That's all. Yeah, because there it is. Stanley the Fish has been remastered for video here.
Look, I'm just impressed. I saw what it looks like. There's all kinds of buttons. Like
There are.
And I felt like one of those kids in the elevator that wanted to press them all. So good luck to you, Ed. I know you do good work. So
yeah. It's important to note that if you are listening to us in the podcast, things will sound, because of Albert, things will sound just as good as they always do. Yep. But if you're watching us on the video feed, or if you're watching us on Catholic TV or the Catholic Faith Network, we did a significant upgrade of our video systems to help us produce the show, so that we can perhaps have a little bit of a higher notch.
Yep.
And that has only happened because of your support of us.
Yeah.
And so we had some money sitting in our account, and we were able to make this update. Now we just have to finish paying for it. But so CatholicUnderground.com/donate. That's the only thing I'll say about that.
We appreciate you.
But part of the reason we do this is so that we can continue to bring you even expanded things within our show. This equipment will allow us to do pre-produced programs, right?
Yeah.
So little pre-produced packages like you would see on your news magazine program.
Mm-hmm.
And it will also give us the opportunity to bring in other sources, so other people into our broadcast as well. So
Very
that's
cool.
what we're looking forward to. I know I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully you are as well, because if you've been following the Catholic Underground, or maybe you're new, welcome, by the way. This is kind of a new era. And
Yeah.
I should also mention that Kathleen and Olivia are officially members of our board of directors for the Catholic Underground.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
right. Now that I've said it on the air, it's official.
Yeah.
Do we
Yeah.
get like a scepter or something?
Well,
I feel like Kathleen would do with a tiara.
Yeah. I mean, I think that
So-
might be the next.
so you'd share the jewels of office. Is that what you're saying?
I move to
Well,
motion. Isn't that how you do it?
obviously.
I move to motion these things be. Who seconds it? Olivia, that's you. Your cue.
I will always second it.
Yeah, that would be Kevin's rules of order. I'm thinking, not Robert's.
Kevin!
Anyway, so thank you again, and so we just wanted to spend a few moments at the top of the show talking about all the new stuff that we've got here for you. Mm-hmm. It's also a program that we're going to concentrate on some beautiful things within the church, and those are doctors.
Yep.
And I suppose that we should say that it's not the kind of doctors you're thinking of. Normally, when we think of a doctor, we think certainly of a medical doctor,
Right.
but the church has her own doctors as well. Not just medical doctors.
Yeah, and I like even someone who studies theology, the doctors of the church are always like this I don't know, like for the I think regular lay people, it's something that's not really known very well.
It's not talked about.
Not talked about very well. But although we talk about some of the often, we don't often talk about their role as doctors of the church for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think like I always bring it back to like etymology in my classes, and my girls are like, "Oh my gosh, more Latin!" But it's
You
important.
give me a word,
I show you that the root of that word is either Greek, Latin, or Hebrew. And the word doctor, we think of it as like a medical doctor, someone who you bring what ails you to. But in Latin, docere or docere means to teach. So it's a teacher. So the doctors that we go to for, our cuts and wounds and whatever are doctors of medicine. Right. And so, but they've kind of usurped that term for their own.
Sure.
But anyone who has kind of reached a certain level of expertise in their field is, now there's certain like degrees that are conferred that will make you a doctor. But like it generally speaking is talking about someone who is an expert, someone who is a bona fide teacher.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's where we find ourselves today is talking about these magisters, these teachers, these doctors of the church. And it's important to kind of delineate, because not every saint is a doctor of the church.
Right.
This is a special designation that is given in the same way that a medical doctor would go to school and partake of the different types of learning that's required to be considered a licensed practitioner of whatever the medicine is. A doctor of the church has a kind of a similar scope, right? Although a doctor of the church doesn't become a doctor while they're alive.
Right.
So that's an important way to put that. So so let's see. So let's talk about there are three qualifications, right, that are overarching as to whether we determine the possibility of someone becoming a doctor of the church. So they have to be holy.
Right.
Yes. Because they're saints.
Right.
Well, and even among the saints, they have to be, that sounds weird to say, but like they have to be holy even among the saints.
Yeah, like your top tier level saints.
Yeah.
That's right. And so you have that notion, but then there's also the depth of doctrinal insight. And it's important to talk a little bit about what we believe about. Are you ready for the long phrase here?
Yes.
the deposit of faith.
Ooh.
Yes. Tell it to me.
I love it.
So the deposit of faith is also one of those things that Joe and Jane Catholic don't particularly
Right.
know about, but we partake of that deposit of faith for our entire lives.
Yeah.
So, and Olivia, Kathleen, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the deposit of faith is the stored up knowledge, if you will, of everything that God has revealed to us about himself through his son, Jesus Christ, and up until the death of the last apostle.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that. So everything that God reveals to us in the Bible, from Genesis, if you will,
Right.
all the way through until the death of John, the beloved disciple, which was what, the year like 95,
Late
97, something like that. And so at the death of the apostle John, we believe that the apostolic teaching was complete, right? So everything that God was going to reveal to us about himself through his church occurred within the first 9,800 years of the church, maybe, or 100 years of the church. And so from that point on, everything that has been done in terms of learning is a plumbing of that deposit, of that initial deposit of faith. And so I always say it's like a bank account that you can never bleed dry, but you can always make withdrawals from. And every time you make a withdrawal, you are able to find some sort of new nuance to what has already been revealed.
Right.
Yeah.
You're able to store it in your own bank account. Like
That's
your
correct.
Own
That's
faith,
right.
Your own faith
That's a good way to put it.
deposit. You know, because I'm always talking to people about this. Is like, this is why the doctors of the church and you know, the doctrine of the church and the writings of people of the church are so important, because you know, so many times we look at what the church teaches and we're like, oh, I don't agree with that because I don't understand it.
Yep.
Or I think I understand it, and I might.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, let's just get this straight. The church does not just say, hey, here is what we believe because, period.
Yeah.
Never. There's so much, and sometimes I'll be very honest with you as someone who is a little more simple in my intake of knowledgeable things. Some of it is very rich and in depth, like some of the writings of even the doctors.
You could say it's elevated, right?
Right.
It takes a lot to
but
dig
there
into
are also
it.
many people who have broken those things open and broken them down in order for you to understand it. And so when we say like, well, I don't understand it, I don't agree with it because I don't understand it, or I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
That's not on, I feel like it's not on the church, because the church is like, look, here is what we believe and here is why, and like, here's all the in-depth, and we're just like, if it's not in the headlines, then I don't, it's too much.
It's not a hot topic.
Right. And so my challenge to you guys, like for me, for our listeners out there who maybe you're like, I don't know, this is a lot, it's heavy. Dive into some of this stuff. Like if you've never heard of it, you like when you take out the deposit and you put it into your own bank account, it makes your bank account that much fuller.
Yeah.
Right. And it's free for free. Like it's deposit of the faith for free. You know what I mean?
And I'll say too, like, maybe if you're looking for a place to start, we're almost in Advent. St. Athanasius on the Incarnation.
Yep.
Really good.
Because you're prepping for Jesus to be born in your heart, right?
Yeah. And I tell this to my seniors who were studying like philosophy as it pertains to theology. And like, it's hard. It's hard to sit there and read Aristotle. It's hard to sit there and read Aquinas. And there's a reason for that, because we don't typically think like that anymore.
Right.
So if it's hard, that's okay. It means your brain's working.
Yeah.
Keep at it. Chew on it.
Yeah, I
Read
was
it 3 times.
Yeah.
You know?
And if your brain kind of hits a hard stop, that's not a bad thing. Where you don't throw up your hands in academic learning whenever,
right.
Yeah.
or in spiritual reading when something really just kind of confuses you.
Yeah.
And you have to dig in again and again and again. So that would be the depth of doctrinal insight would be that second determining factor of how that particular saint plumbed the deposit of faith and brought forth a new understanding of what has been revealed, right? And then number 3, the extensive writings with the church can then recommend in any age of history that is saying this is worthy of belief. This is an authentic expression of what we believe as Catholics.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what we certainly consider. If you look at a lot of the doctors of the church, most of them have a lot of ink.
Yeah. And you'll notice too, like if you look up a list of doctors of the church, I believe there's 36 of them.
Yeah.
But you notice that a lot of them are kind of congregated in the earliest part of the church, like the around the 200s, 300s, 400s.
Right after the deposit of faith was sealed, if you will. They were constantly
and like even historically speaking, there's a reason for that, because like, you know, you have the last apostle, the death of the last apostle, so you have like the like Father Chris was saying, like, this is what we believe, this is the heritage that's now being passed down. And some people are going to look at that heritage and be like, well, I know what that means, and they're going to start preaching something that isn't correct. And so it's up to
which happened
which happens still. So it's up to the magisters, the teachers, that's where the again, like the word magisterium is where it comes from. So the teachers of the church, a lot of the fathers and the doctors of the church are bishops, some even popes, and some just theologians who it was their job to help clarify, elucidate, especially if there were errors. Right. So you'll see a lot of these early doctors of the church dealing with like heresies, like things that are kind of dug in, ground in. This is not what we believe. Things about so like Arianism, for example, is the belief that Christ wasn't fully God and fully man. He was fully human, but some kind of demigod. Right. And that's not a correct understanding of Christ's two natures in one person, his hypostatic union. And so you'll see a lot of ink written about, well, what is true, right? And that's a lot of what the doctors are writing about. And you got to consider too, like they write so much because that's the way that they pass information, you know, and they get those writings get reproduced. They sometimes get famous, quote unquote, for like the things that they're writing. And so they become very well known for being a defender of the faith on, you know, whatever issue.
I mean, Athanasius would be a good example. Who wrote against heresies of every kind.
Yes,
you know,
he did.
In fact, it's beautiful because for those of you who pray the Liturgy of the Hours, so maybe you're a member of a third order religious community, or maybe you've picked up iBreviary, which is for free, by the way.
Very nice.
And you've started praying the Office of Readings, which is that kind of first office of the day, or I suppose you can pray it as the last office of the day if you want to do the vigil for the next day. But it has a large swath of the writings of the doctors of the church, and you get that a lot. In fact, St. Augustine shows up almost every day in the Office of Readings, and he is indeed one of the doctors of the church. And so the church really finds the doctors of the church as part of the undergirding, part of kind of like the steel beams that we then build upon those who are living many years hence, right? Many hundreds of years hence.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know about y'all, but sometimes like when teaching about this or telling people about this, people will ask like, oh, so they're like infallible?
Yeah.
No.
Right. Well, because we think that every time anybody says something definitively about the faith, then they must have some sort of an absolute authority.
Yeah.
Right.
And there are members of the church who preach with absolute authority in certain instances.
Right.
But for the most part, like as a regular old priest, my job is simply to echo the deposit of faith.
Yeah.
And I don't make a pronouncement of my own volition. I hereby declare.
Yeah.
Only the Holy Father can do that, and he can only do it in certain instances. And so, whenever you have the examinations that take place to determine whether or not someone's writings will be considered worthy of naming them a doctor of the church, the infallibility is not in the things that they say. The infallibility is in this has been proven true because God has revealed it to his church.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not in the person being infallible. It's in the teaching that they're plumbing, that they're unfolding perhaps in a new type of way. It's the teaching that is infallible because God's word is infallible. And we believe that the sacred tradition that he hands down to us through the apostles, it is also infallible.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that can be done is that can be just referenced back to and referenced back to again. And so when the Pope makes an infallible teaching, like he declares something infallible, he himself is only declaring infallible the doctrine that has already been defined. He's just saying, now this is worthy of belief, and this is required for our belief. That's right, something dogmatic. So the people themselves. There are probably more than a few doctors of the church who probably had opinions on everything. you know?
Yeah.
Some of it's scientific, right?
Yeah, well, like, St. Robert Bellarmine is, like, known as a really fantastic preacher and orator. He was also just an incredible scholar.
Yeah.
And he was kind of one of the go-to people.
Yeah, his catechism was considered the catechism for a very long time.
Yeah, for centuries. And sometimes he'll get, like, brought to the carpet for, like, his role in the whole, like, Galileo affair.
Oh, yes.
But, you know, science is still unfolding, right? He's not an omniscient person.
No.
Same with, like, people like Thomas Aquinas, right?
Yeah.
Thomas Aquinas, for all of his brilliance, had some ideas about things like the Immaculate Conception that we wouldn't necessarily hold today, but he wasn't stating them definitively. He was saying, let's think about this.
That's right. I'm an academic, and therefore this is what's been revealed, and this is what we know about Mary. Here's some extempore thought on where some of these these philosophical threads might go.
Yeah.
And it's because people like him were willing to ask those questions that then later on down the line, you have an infallible declaration on Mary's Immaculate Conception. Right. But like it's a process of development. Right. And I think like that's where like St. John Henry Newman really, I think, has a role to play, especially in the modern day church, in helping us understand how doctrine can develop authentically, not changing, but developing.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think what we will do now is pause briefly, and I should apologize to Ed because I did not make a little interstitial for this part of the show.
Oh, wow.
But it is the part of the show that we like to call the Catholic Underground. So you got a behind the scenes of us dancing. That's normally what we do.
Yeah. I thought you were going to like have us hum the music or something.
Yeah.
Oh no, the music
excited.
we got, but the video.
Sorry, Ed.
That's all right. It's okay. I'll tell you, Ed is doing the yeoman's work of driving this ship today, because I'm watching what you're doing there, Ed. You're doing great.
We see you.
We see you. Yeah. So we've been talking about the doctors of the church here on the Catholic Underground. We are the podcast that tries to cut through the noise of the digital continent and help you to find the still small one, right? The voice of God.
And man,
we're talking.
Is it noisy.
It is noisy out there. It really is, and that's really one of the things that we try to do is to provide some context for the world. And the way that we believe that we can do that is by living our faith and living it to the full, and digging into the deposit of faith, as the doctors of the church have done. And as we kind of move into this next segment, there aren't just male doctors of the church.
There are not.
In fact, but what's really interesting, though, y'all, is that there were, for a very long period of time, mostly, popes and priests and bishops and et cetera, and monks of the male persuasion. But then you begin to see how the church doesn't shift, but then begins to look deeper into the feminine genius as a source of plumbing the depths of the deposit of faith.
Yeah. And I mean, it's no surprise, too, that for centuries you have a lot of men being declared doctors of the church because, I mean, the educational system at the time was reserved for men. And, and a lot of it was happening in the monasteries.
Right, yeah.
The university
they were preparing
system,
for holy orders.
Yeah, the university system was, here's a fun fact for the day. The university system developed in the Middle Ages out of the Catholic
cathedral
church.
schools and the monastic schools.
Yeah. And so so you have people like Aquinas. He was basically a college professor, right? His Summa Theologica was like a textbook that he wrote, right? You have some of the earlier, like more ancient to medieval doctors like Cyril of Jerusalem and Athanasius and St. Jerome, St. Augustine. And then you have your more like strictly medievals, people like Robert Bellarmine that we talked about.
Yep.
But even in that time, you have female doctors. And I think what's really interesting is that all of them were declared doctors of the church, in two of them in 1970, one in 1997, and one as recent as 2015.
Oh, wow.
And so just in the past...
Barely the last century, right?
What's 50 years? I'm like, math is not my strong suit.
I know, I'm like, and every time I think about it, I'm like, 30 years. Oh, no, there's 20 years.
I know, right?
Yeah.
We have 50 years.
We're that old
50
now.
years, yeah. Oh, gosh. But I think that one of the beautiful things is it's not that like the church has never, and we've said this before, it's not that the church does not have a spot for women, and it's not like the church is just waking up to the fact that like, oh, women can think.
Right.
The church has always reserved a special place for women, but in the last 50 years, and even more like the past 100, 120 years, you're seeing more of the depth of like what you're saying, like the role that feminine genius is playing and has played, right? Which is why you can have Hildegard von Bingen is the one who was declared a doctor of the church in 2015. She lived in the 11th century,
right?
So it's just a recognition of something that was always true, right? But the church wants to bring it into the light and say this is authentic femininity.
Yeah,
this is the church.
Yeah, isn't that the nature of women in general? Is to like just be there, and not come in and say like, I'm a woman, declare me a doctor, but to be there and to do what they do.
Yeah. There is a beautiful Marian sense to that, right? Even if we look at the historical nature of the female doctors of the church not happening until fairly recently, is that there has been this notion of a pondering in the heart of the church by these women saints who became doctors. And I really do think that that's a beautiful thing. There is this kind of Marian notion of they pondered all these things in their hearts, and these were the things that brought them close to the Lord. And then in the fullness of time, they were opened up into the world. Yeah, and that's. I wonder if that might not be the mind of God. Obviously, I don't know, but.
And I think it's a mark of humility too, because these are women. Some of them medievals, and only one of them is the most recent one is like the 1800s. Right, Saint Therese. But they just did their work. They did what they did. They lived their lives. They lived a life of holiness and prayer, and God gave them certain gifts to be able to live a deeper life of prayer. And they just lived their lives, and that's enough for them. They weren't trying to aim for like glory or like I want people to recognize me. And because they did what they did, people like us can mine their treasures now.
That's right? Exactly.
Because they were faithful in those small things. Then we can mine the treasures now and benefit from them and make the church more what it's supposed to be.
That's right. Yeah. So we have Saint Therese of Lisieux,
Saint Therese.
The little flower, and again, these are not all completely angelic individuals from the moment of conception.
Love it.
There's hope for you, Kathleen.
Yes,
you could be a doctress of the church one day. Start writing.
That'll be the day.
Absolutely.
But she was kind of precarious as a child. Therese was. She was feisty. She had a conversion in her early teens. And she really didn't write much. She kind of breaks the mold. For doctors of the church.
Yeah, because all she has that we have of her writings is just her journal, basically, and it's like her spiritual autobiography, story of a soul.
Right.
And what's interesting, I read a few years ago that basically whoever was the superior of her order when she died, kind of like instructed her journal to be edited, and anything that wasn't like the picture of holiness was kind of taken out. So that's why some people read the story of the soul and they're like, it's very flowery. It's very French, but like there were other things in there that were just edited out. And especially thinking about like, she didn't just stop being this feisty person, there's still some of that in her. It just was maybe like abridged. But yeah,
abridged feistiness. I think that would be the name of Kathleen's new band.
Ooh, yeah.
I'll make a band T-shirt.
Abridged feistiness.
But one of the things I love about her is that even in her pursuit of holiness, Saint Therese, I love Kathleen too. But I love that she wanted so badly to be a Carmelite, but her bishop wouldn't let her do it. So she petitions the Pope. She's 15 and she's writing to Pope Leo XIII, who was not like,
you
a nobody.
Write to him.
Yeah. And she petitions the Pope, and the Pope's like, okay. And she gets to join this religious order because she had the zeal to be able to say, no, this is what I want to do, and I'm gonna find a way.
Yeah, it's the Lord's will. So isn't
so
that like
get with the program?
Have you like most religious sisters that I meet, are very very much have that, like, we're like, oh sister, it's not gonna happen today, and there's no possible, and they're like, shh. Be quiet. It's what the Lord wants. It'll happen. You turn around, it happens, and you're like
Mother Angelica.
I don't know why I didn't trust you.
Yeah. Yep. And even like Catherine of Siena, another doctor of the church, she was a laywoman. She was kind of basically illiterate. Yeah. But she was the one who convinced Pope Gregory, I think it's the 11th, to return the papacy from France, as during the Avignon papacy, to convince him to go back to Rome. Yeah. Right. And we've talked about her before in her letters. She says things like, up, Father, like a man. Yeah. Like the zeal.
Yep, exactly. So St. Catherine, St. Teresa of Avila, who probably among the women doctors of the church has a larger body of work.
Yeah, yeah. So Interior Castle is probably the one that we're all most familiar with, but she's got a whole anthology. And so too does the fourth of the female doctors of the church. Hildegard von Bingen was prolific, and not just in her spiritual writings, but also her practical writings, because she was an abbess of a convent, and she's got a cookbook, like she wrote so much. She had mystical visions that she wrote. So there's really a deep treasure in.
She also has and one of the things I think that Pope Benedict loved about her was her music, right?
Yeah,
she wrote a lot of polyphony and psalmody as well. So
and you can find people that will like perform them.
That's exactly right. That's certainly the case. Yeah. Well, folks, we're going to take a little bit of a break, but don't worry, the Catholic Underground is back, and we're going to talk more about being a doctor of the church. Stay right there. Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, thine eyes of mercy towards us. And after this our exile, show unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus. O clement, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Catholic Underground. Indeed, we are the podcast that cuts through the noise, and, well, you found us, so hopefully things aren't too noisy where you are. I'm Father Chris Decker. Joining me, we got Kathleen Lee.
That's true.
Olivia Galino's here, too. Albert's up on the Jeff Star 1, along with Ed. And so we've been talking about doctors of the church on the show today, and who they are, what they do, what makes a doctor, and then we've talked certainly about the female doctors of the church. I guess it wouldn't be a bad thing to mention some of the dude doctors. Yeah. So St. Ambrose would be one of those. He was the Bishop of Milan, and he was the one who received Augustine, who would become St. Augustine, into the church. And you really get a kind of a sense of who St. Ambrose was by the fact that Augustine talks about him all the time. He mentions him quite a bit. And so St. Augustine would be another one, St. Augustine of Hippo, who said, hope has two beautiful daughters. Their names are anger and courage. Anger at the way things are, and courage to see that they do not remain the way they are. So you can see just the language of course, that's a small snippet of Augustine.
Talk about prolific.
Right, exactly. St. Jerome, of course, who gives us what we call the Vulgate now, right? The Latin translation of the Bible from the Septuagint, which were the original Greek and therefore original Hebrew sources of the scriptures. So just the fact that he translated the Bible would probably be enough to make him a doctor of the church.
The entire Bible, and like the service that he did for the church, like can't go unnoticed, because like if you wanted to read the Bible before Jerome, you had to know at least 3 languages.
Yeah.
And he knew them, and so he translated it into a popular language, which was Latin at the time, and therefore helps the spread of the faith. Like, what? Like, there's no Christendom without St. Jerome.
Yeah. That's right. And there's no good psalmody without St. Gregory the Great. He's also a doctor of the church. He had a rather significant political career, and he gave up that career, and he became a monk. And then from monk, he found himself named Pope, which was a thing in the 570s. I think it was 590. He was elected to succeed Pelagius II, not to be confused with the Pelagius the heretic. Right? Yeah, exactly. And so he began to see that the Psalms were falling out of use. And so he revised the translation of the Psalms, and he set them to music. And so when you hear about Gregorian chant, that's what we're talking about. It's St. Gregory who did that. And so again, just that work alone would be enough to consider somebody, I think, a doctor of the church, somebody who's learned and who's able to translate the deposit of faith in such a way where we're still singing Gregorian chant today.
Well, that's what I love about about the Gregorian reform is it's like, hey, bring it back, people. Like he saw the faithful slipping away, and he was like, all right, let's have enough courage to take a look at ourselves
Yep.
and to reform ourselves,
Yep.
and that's what I think, we lack across the board, whether it's in the church or, in society, is that, oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my house is burning down, I'm fine,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, this is fine.
It's on fire, I'm fine. Don't worry about it, right? And, there needs to be an introspective look, right, at
Mm-hmm.
how, we as a church, we as, a universal church, we as a parish, we as a diocese, there needs to be that constant looking at and saying, okay, where do we change things,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where do we reform things when needed,
Yep.
so that we can bring those souls back to Jesus.
Yeah,
right?
and oftentimes that's what the writings of the doctors of the
Right,
church
exactly.
do, is that they respond in a specific age to the need for a new evangelization. I mean, we
Right.
think that we came up with that
Yeah.
phrase, but no,
Silly.
the truth is always in need
Mm-hmm.
of being represented to the age in which it finds itself.
Right.
And I think that's certainly something that we living here in the year that has been 2020 is realizing that we're called to use this treasury that the doctors have helped to kind of unpack, if you will.
Yeah.
For that. Another one that's one of my favorites that kind of became one of my favorites through the Liturgy of the Hours, through the Office of Readings, was St. Gregory of Nazianzus. And he's just a fantastic writer. He, along with St. Basil, of course, who's yet another doctor of the church. I love the rivalry between Basil and Gregory, because he even writes about it on their feast day. You get that in the Office of Readings, is how the only thing that they both wanted to do, they were trying to outdo each other academically and outdo each other in their piety and celebrating the sacraments, but only so that they could both be called Christian at the end of their lives. Like they had the same goal. And so how beautiful that is too, is that you have these two men who kind of account each other as brothers,
Right.
and their brotherhood is truly because of their baptism.
Yeah.
And I love that too. So John Chrysostom would be another good example too. Chrysostomos, right? The golden mouth, the golden tongue. He was definitely a fantastic spiritual writer. So, and again, a lot of the stuff that we take for granted that pops up in our popular Catholic thought, well, that's coming from a lot of these doctors of the church. It really is.
Yeah.
So I suppose it asks the question of us: what does that look like today? What would make it so? In the year 2520,
Right.
what would somebody looking back say? This is what made Kathleen a doctor of the church. Saint Kathleen of Lee.
Such a lovely place.
That's right. or she'd probably be St. Kathleen of Louisiana.
Right.
What would make St. Kathleen of Louisiana a doctor of the church today?
Yeah.
So I guess if we look in the early days of the doctors, many times they were confronting a spirit of the age that was in error.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the, and this is just my humble opinion, is I think that one of the spirit of errors that we have today is that idea that we allow, as Catholics, we allow other people to tell us what the church supposedly teaches.
Oh, yeah.
And we are albeit uneducated, we are lazy, and we don't defend our own faith, and we allow other people to tell us lies about the faith, lies about the church. And so I think one of the when I look at what are the things that need to be written about, is the church's own people. Like, how do we educate them, educate us, and not even just in content, but on how to look for things, like how to study the faith, how to not just look at the headline and say, well, I don't agree with this. This is a stupid teaching. Well, it's not actually, a lot of times you're not actually disagreeing with what the church teaches. You're disagreeing with what somebody's telling you the church teaches, which is not always true. So when I look at that, I look at, reform within the way that we catechize, the way that we, catechize not only in educational places, but also in the family, and how do we excite people about the beauty of the church? Because I guarantee you, if I could snap my fingers and have all of the writings of the church doctors in my brain right now, I would die of just sheer this is awesome, and how come nobody ever told me about this? Because that's often what happens when I read something in class, or get my master's and something. I'm like, I've been a Catholic my whole life.
Like that quote from Augustine, right?
Yeah, right. So that would be my thing. It's like how can we write to the people in a way that wakes them up? You know what I mean?
Well, and I think too, when it comes to the heresies, so there's these ancient heresies, and we tend to look at them as if it's just history, and we've closed the book on that.
Yeah, Gnosticism's not a thing anymore, we would say. And yet, this hyper individualism is Gnosticism writ large.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And even something that Gnosticism is often associated with is dualism, right? So the idea that somehow the matter. We are spiritual and material beings, and that is a hylomorphic composite. There's your $20 word for the day. But that somehow our matter is evil or bad, or it's going to lead us into sin, and the spirit is the only thing that's good. Yeah. That's a dualist understanding of the person, and that's not at all what we believe. No. But you see that cropping up. Right. And even which again adds into the sense of promiscuity. Right. Is that I can do whatever I want with my matter. Right. Because my spirit is what I determine it to be. Right. My spirit is fine. I've even heard it very recently. Well, I talk to God, and God and I are okay. Yeah. I've forgiven all of my own sins, and therefore I can do what I want. I got a shiver down my spine. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, I've heard that verbatim. Yeah. And that's the sense of I have made myself in my own image, and that's good enough. Yeah. Right. Well, and even that is partially a kind of Pelagianism. It is, yeah. So Pelagianism is an ancient heresy, but still cropping up today, that basically says well, sin doesn't really wound human nature the way that we have thought that it does, and my free will is enough to bring me to perfection. I don't need God's grace. That's extra. Yeah. But I can get myself all the way there, or part of the way there if you're a semi-Pelagian. But that idea is still around, right? Yep. Look at the self-help kind of era, which admittedly is not so much in the the cheesy self-help books anymore, but it's in the finding influencers to follow, and people who are going to digest the world for you and then tell you what to believe. That's kind of what they're saying is, right, if you just can kind of pare down to what you are in your essence, you're going to find that you have the will to be able to speak it into the universe or whatever. And that's that's not authentic, because yes, we do have freedom, but it's a gift. Yeah, that's right. I am not sui generis. I don't create myself. And so you see all of these vestiges of the things that we've as human beings have struggled with since the beginning of time. Right. Yeah. And since the beginning of sin, especially. Yeah. We see all these things. We're still struggling with them. They just have new names. They just wear different clothes. That's right. And so I feel like what Kathleen is saying, the doctors of the church for our modern era are going to be the people who wake us up to that. Yeah. The people who are bold enough to say in the face of a lot of persecution, most likely, but the people who are willing to say, this is not the way that we should be living. This is not what you should be. This is what the truth is about you. Yeah. And even that's not going to be a popular stance. Right. And I think that what we're seeing, especially this particular year with what's now being determined, the cancel culture. Yeah. I think that the doctors of the church 500 years from now, the ones who were declared doctors in 2020, maybe there was at least one. Right. Is responding to that cancel culture, that if I stand up and I say this is true, because it speaks to the heart of human existence, and it speaks to the fact that we are not created for this world. We are created for heaven, and therefore I am canceled. Yeah. I think that a doctor of the church is probably going to be somebody who was canceled. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then many, many years from now looked back on and gone, nope, they nailed it. Yeah. Because 500 years ago, they were dealing with this, and we're dealing with the fallout from 500 years ago. And we can say that,
about the saints who lived in the 1500s who were responding to the Protestant Reformation and to just the obliteration of belief that happened as a result of that, or by the saints that were part of the French Revolution, right? That were the fallout of the French Revolution. We're looking back 200, 300, 500 years and going, oh, nope, Saint so-and-so nailed it, and now we're trying to pick up the pieces based upon their experience of suffering in a crucible time of the church. And I think that here in 2020, we're in one of those crucible times. In fact, I was preaching about this for the Feast of Christ the King, that Pope Pius XI, whenever he instituted the Feast of Christ the King in 1925, was saying the reason I'm instituting this feast is because men are in danger of losing a sense of who God is and who Christ is and where he stands, what place he has in our world. And the answer, spoiler alert, says Pius XI, is he is the king of the universe. And so I think, the doctors of the church for tomorrow are being formed today in the crucible of our age that has to confront not just modernity, but the heresies of modernism. If it's new, it must be good. If it's novel, it must be tried.
Well, and I think too, like, I love what you were saying about the cancel culture, because I think there's two sides to that coin. Because part of the cancel culture, which I find particularly disturbing, is someone makes a mistake or someone has a sin that's put on display and people abandon that person. We're perpetuating the idea that people are irredeemable, that you are your sin, and if you sin in a certain way, that's it for you.
Which is part of the dualistic heresy that is writ large, because then you have, and I'll use the $5 buzzword today, that then you have the virtue signal. It says, I am better than you, and I am incapable of sin because I have said that about myself, and therefore it must be true. And so then you have the person pronouncing another person irredeemable, because they don't believe in a savior, except they're saying that I am your savior. And so then what happens is that other human being commits a peccadillo, and then finds themselves canceled and then signaled by yet another, So each of us is trying to be his or her own magisterium. And either the magisterium happens outside of ourselves in a deposit of faith that is sealed and much larger than ourselves, from which we draw the truth, or we try to make ourselves a deposit of faith. And it doesn't work.
Yeah, and it's because it's a perpetuation of pride. It's the pride of saying, like,
it's nothing new.
Yeah, like it's a new face to pride, right? It's just, instead of like, I'm better than someone else, or I'm more of whatever than someone else is, we're kind of placing ourselves in God's position and saying like passing judgment in the kind of capital J sense of judgment on other people and their sins, instead of cavorting with sinners. That's what Jesus did.
He did.
Like, that was a scandal, right? But it was a scandal that he was willing to undertake because he saw the dignity of the person.
That's
and that
right.
The person is paramount. The sin is not.
And if we're so bold, Jesus makes it very clear that the way that we find ourselves as members of his kingdom is by reaching down into the world and ministering to those who have been considered the least. Right? Ministering to those who have been pushed aside, ministering to those who are not just physically hungry, but spiritually hungry, and expressing to them that, no, you have not been canceled by God. If you had been canceled by God, you wouldn't have being. Right? But God cancels no one. He does not. And therefore, the church must be there to provide the healing balms of the sacraments and Christian witness, our witness, to feed and to give drink to the thirsty. So that might be what a doctor of the church looks like maybe 200 years hence. We don't know.
I look forward to finding out.
I look forward to finding out
from the other side.
Hopefully from a place in eternity that is among the righteous and not the damned. That is my great hope. You know what another of my great hopes is that we pull off this part of the show that we like to call
the CU Pick of the Week.
Yeah, that one. All right. Okay. Yeah. So for our first CU Pick of the Week, let's go over to Kathleen.
Okay. I'm prepared.
Do it.
I'm super excited. I found this, as I am engaged. Yay. And in the next year, In fact, a year from just about now,
Oh, yeah.
I will be making my own home.
You will.
Which I have made. Like, let's be honest, I have been in and out of my parents' abode. I've had my own apartment, which is very hard to fit all of my stuff into a 1-bedroom apartment. That's another story. But I've really been I'm really excited about this idea of getting a house, you know, and my fiance.
And a hearth.
Yeah. And my fiance is like, well, what do you want? And I'm like, I never had a house of my own ever. Like, I've always lived in somebody else's house. And so, like, a bathroom is what I would like.
That's right.
And, you know, I don't know. What else
Walls.
is there? Yeah, so I picked up this book. It's called Theology of the Home, Finding the Eternal in the Everyday. And it's super cool. It's by these 4 women. Their moms and their wives and their homemakers, you know, and it's beautifully done with pictures and even
like sacred artwork.
Very much.
And then just pictures.
It's well designed.
Yeah,
It
and then
really
just
is.
pictures of like every day, like their kids and sometimes what their houses look like, you know. And it talks about like how do you create like a Catholic space, and how do you make it a place of rest? And so some of the things they talk about is like some of the, you know, the things that like the what are these called? Table of contents. Thank you. I don't go into detail, but I mean it's like nourishment and safety, order, comfort, hospitality.
Also kind of like the overarching things that make a home.
Yeah.
And then in the Catholic key.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it talks about like, you know, how do you make it a spiritual retreat? You know, and then at the end, I haven't gotten here yet, but the last chapter is called Mary the Homemaker, which I'm stoked about.
Yeah. And it does a really good job. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
It does a really good job of like kind of bringing something that's a little more cerebral or ethereal into the practical.
Yeah.
And I can say that because Kathleen gifted me that book.
Oh, yay.
Very sweet.
Very nice.
You're welcome. But yeah, so it's pretty
Theology
cool.
of the Home.
Theology of the Home. There's also a second one, and there's also like a planner, which they try to
Isn't
sell.
there always?
Which they try to sell me, and I was like, because I have a compulsory need to buy all the things of one thing,
Especially planners.
in
I'm
order
that
to
way.
read the one. But I'm super excited to finish it, and hopefully pass it on to other people.
There you go. Olivia, your pick of the week.
So my pick of the week is a website.
Okay.
But it's also a place where you could procure a book, such as the one Kathleen recommended. So it's called Bookshop. And I believe it's bookshop.org. And I stumbled upon it like a couple days ago. And basically what it is it's like a large conglomerate that used to be predominantly about selling books. Starts with an A. I think you know what I'm talking about. But it's just for independent small bookstores.
Cool. Yeah.
So, because like in your town, you probably have a small bookstore, whether it's like a new or used kind of situation, antique books, something like that. But they've taken a hit, as have a lot of small businesses with the whole COVID situation. And what I really love is that this is a platform for the small booksellers to be able to sell without using the capital A large conglomerate. To be able to do so in a way that they reap more of the benefits. And so if you're looking for, I usually give at least a couple of people books around this time of year for Christmas. So if you're looking for, or maybe you're just looking for yourself, some spiritual reading for Advent, I really recommend them. I haven't used them yet, but I perused their website. Like I said, I just found them a couple days ago, so I will let you know how that goes.
Bookshop.org.
Yeah. And you can even search for what's your local bookshop, and it'll kind of have that as your home base.
Cool.
Once you've searched for it and have kind of clicked on it. But you can buy books from anywhere in the country, and all from independent small bookstores.
Oh, and I didn't even know that we had one here in Baton Rouge. Well, there you go.
And it doesn't have Cottonwoods, which is our major one, but that kind of has its own following. But there's a lot of that I didn't even know of.
This is in the hipster district.
Yes, it
little
is.
Bookstore.
Indeed it is.
But apparently over $8 million has been raised for local bookstores through this platform, which is good. I prefer a local bookstore whenever I can go.
Sure.
I mean, I will go to all of the lettered, places.
Yes.
But there is nothing quite like the kitsch.
Oh yeah.
and the kith of the kin of a local bookstore.
Like when you go in, like one of our local used bookstores is called Cottonwoods. If you're in Baton Rouge, check it out. But they literally have like books stacked from the floor to the ceiling, and you just have to like sift through. And that's oh my gosh, that's the best way to spend 2 hours. Oh my gosh, it's so fun.
One of my other favorite local bookstores is run by a nice Episcopalian folks in Casper, Wyoming, Wind City Books. Ooh. And I love going in that place because they have a monster cappuccino machine, you know. Oh, yeah. So you can have a nice cappuccino while you're browsing the stacks.
Love that.
And and they actually, I appreciate a bookstore with a good graphic novel selection that they have, you know, especially a local bookstore. Too, which I suppose brings me to my pick of the week, which is in fact
the king of the transition.
Well, I try. And there are kings in this too. This is a comic book series. This is chapter 1 called Dominion, The Fall of the House of Saul. So it's written, it's kind of a collaborative effort written by Dr. Baron Bell, who is the creator of it. He's the writer, he's done the pencils, and he's done the graphic design in it. He works for a college, Liberty University. He's a professor of art and design at Liberty University and George Fox University. And so he's trying to take the story of Saul, the story of David, the story of Jonathan, and bring it to life for a new generation by using science fiction allegory.
That's awesome.
And I don't know if you remember the NBC series. It was very short-lived called Kings. It was really pretty good too. It only lasted a season because apparently people didn't get the allegory. You know, that's where we live. You have people that don't know what the Bible is. They know it's a book, but they don't know what it is. Yeah. I kid you not. I've experienced this in my own life. Or people who don't know who the characters, the people of the Bible are, don't know that Jesus isn't just an historical figure, or that he's not just a fable, that he actually lived and he actually continues to live. But so this is an opportunity to tell the story of Saul the king. And all of the characters in the book are anthropomorphic animals, which even makes it better. So you have a sci-fi allegory, but you've also got some C.S. Lewis stuff. The artwork is absolutely beautiful, and it's so well done. And I mean, it's got space battles in it, so you know I'm on board. And so this is chapter 1. It's a well-made book. Chapter 2 is coming actually in December of 2020, supposedly. And so I've only started reading it, but just the artwork alone, it's really well written too. So that would be my pick of the week: Dominion, The Fall of the House of Saul. Nice. And it's available from Terminus Media, and we'll put a link in the show notes as to how you can get a copy of that, because you can certainly do that. They also have a podcast. You can find out about what they've been doing and how they've created it, and then where you can get it. So that's my pick of the week. As always, if you have a pick of the week, you can let us know what your picks are by emailing backchat@catholicunderground.com, or if you want, you can go to catholicunderground.com, and there's a little backchat section that you can leave us an email, and it'll send it to all of us. I think, are you guys getting the backchat emails?
No.
Oh, well, then I need to check in on that. You know,
we got a brand new computer, and I can't get the email. Come on now.
One of the things about rebooting some portions of the Catholic Underground is that I'm kind of checking and making sure all of the old email links and things still work. And so that's all part of it. So again, if you're just joining us for the bottom part of the show, we're very grateful to you, because through your being a benefactor of us over the years, we've finally been able to make some upgrades to our equipment. And it's worth saying that we're not a really large apostolate. You're looking at a majority of the board right here. Here we are. And one of the things that we try to do is, for those of you who know where we're coming to you from, the Catholic Community Radio is the radio station that we collaborate with, and so we actually provide their video service. So Catholic Underground helps to provide the video side of Catholic Community Radio. I know it sounds weird, but we're a media production engine, so we work hand in hand. And so it really is beautiful to see how our apostolates have been able to coincide and to do beautiful things together. So from the bottom of my heart, as Father Chris from Catholic Underground, thank you very much for everything that you've done in allowing us to do this, and hopefully to do more. So, end of sales pitch. But at the same time, it's important that you know that we're still here because of you. And I say this all the time. Lord, if you don't want this apostle to be here, then please allow it to go to a merciful grave, because there are so many other things that you're asking your priests to do, that you're asking us to do. And yet this is an apostolate that continues to say, you know what, there's still more to do. And so here we are. And it's because you have been chiming in with your emails, with your presence in the chat. And I'm very, very grateful for that. We are possible because of viewers, listeners, and benefactors and spiritual warriors like you. You can become an official Undergrounder by going to CatholicUnderground.com/donate. And you can also help us out by letting others know about the Catholic Underground. So remember to like us and heart us and star us on your platform of choice. And if the podcasting service that you use to listen to us has a review option, then consider leaving a favorable review along with the number of stars that you would designate. We hope it's more than 4. Would be nice. Our panelists this week, we've been having Kathleen Lee.
I have been here.
That's right.
Been being here.
Pardon my past pluperfect. She's at klee626 on Instagram. Thank you, Kathleen.
Anytime.
Also, Olivia Galino is at the.real.omg on Instagram and on Twitter. Thank you, Olivia.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, we've got Albert Dupont, who has been running. I'm having tense issues. Who has been running the audio board for us. Thank you, Albert. And then Ed is still somehow alive after running this first.
Ed is unstoppable.
He is. This is definitely the run of the Catholic Underground's new equipment. You know me. I'm Father Chris Decker. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Digital Catholic. And you have been listening to, you've been watching the Catholic Underground. We're cutting through the noise so that you don't have to. And you can find that still small voice. And we will definitely see you next time.
From the Catholic Underground.
Macedon.